Welcome to Right on the Mark with your host, Mark Young. Today we're going to talk about moving out of the dorms. Kids these days going to college, you take them there and you got to bring them back. You know, it's a whole process. This goes way back. Even whenever I went to college and the lovely Kim, goes way back. There's a lot of things to think about, while you're going to high school and while you're getting ready for college and the courses that you take prior to college. It all just comes to a head whenever you go to college. And I am reminded, as we just brought our youngest son, Logan, home, from PPU. It reminded me of all the times that I moved into college, the lovely Kim moved into college, and even Logan. You know, Sean was kind of lucky. I'll say lucky in a way that he didn't have to prepare for college. He didn't have to go out and, buy dorm refrigerators. He didn't have to go out and buy, utensils and things that he needed, furniture and pillows and, plush things that you need to get around in dorm life. He was kind of lucky into the way that he actually knew what he wanted to do way before he knew what he wanted to do. If you don't get what I'm saying, Sean is a dirt mover, and basically him going to college wasn't really a thing. It was him going to a school, basically, an apprenticeship school. And I can remember reading a paper years and years ago and seeing a small ad in the paper, and it said, dirt removal. It said something about, operator of a bulldozer. It said something to the matter of heavy machine operator or something like that. And, I'm like, Sean, look at this ad. This is right up your alley. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, look, this is what you've been groomed to do your whole life. Basically, you want to dig big holes and you want to move dirt. This is the job for you. So he read through it and said, I think I'll give it a try. So this time of year, as the kids move out of college, it makes me think of moving into college just as well, because as time goes by so fast, in another 3 or 4 months, we'll be moving Logan back in. But there was no moving Sean in. Sean was actually starting his after high school work before he even graduated high school. I can remember the whole process of him applying, and he was a senior at Canon Mac, and I could remember him saying, what's the process? So we researched it, we looked at it, and, he had to apply for this school, and it was a pretty intense process of getting into this school. It was run through the local 66 Heavy Machine Operators Union, and, he had to jump through a lot of hoops to get to this school, I should say. And I can remember the written test he had to take ahead of time. We were researching it, and it actually gave you like a practice test. And I'll say one of the test questions I thought was tough for myself, but he didn't have any problems with it. And one of the pre-test questions was, if you're sitting on a slope on a hill, what would you be safer in sitting on? How many leg stool would it be? 2-legged stool, a 3-legged stool, a 4-legged stool, a 5-legged stool, or a 6-legged stool? So that was one of the questions on his pre-test application. And I'm like, wow, I've never seen a 6-legged stool. I'm like, that's got to be pretty secure. And it showed a picture of each one of a man sitting on a stool with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 legs on it. And my answer to it was 6. A 6-legged stool on a hill. Basically that wasn't level, it was uneven. I think that would be the most secure sitting position. But Sean's like, where did you ever see a 6-legged stool? He's like, no way, it's 3 legs. And wouldn't you know, Sean got it right. A 3-legged stool. And it just went on from there. He was always an outside kid, starting from day one. He never wanted to come inside. So what better way to start your life in, the college atmosphere or the work field, the workforce of just working outside. So he passed that test, and he was in the middle of his senior year, and then he got a local job here at the pizza shop Gianni's, and he had like a work release. So he went to high school his senior year in the morning, and then he worked in the afternoon. Until he was able to get this apprenticeship. But, it was a pretty grueling process getting this apprenticeship. He actually had to drive back and forth a few times to, I want to say it was New Alexandria, and it was probably about an hour away. I think that's east of Pittsburgh, and it's just tough getting there logistically, just because of all the traffic and the tunnels you have to go through just to get there east of Pittsburgh. So I remember him going there, and he had to take a bunch of tests there, and written test, oral test, and then they actually had you do a sit in the machine kind of test. From what I understand is you get to sit in a simulator and you get to pull all the levers and move the machine like you're driving a truck, or you're driving an earth mover, or you're driving a dozer, or you're driving a crane, or whatever you're driving. They want to test your skills. And I'll say with all of Sean's skills of playing video games probably helped him the most with, moving all the levers and the gears in the simulator. So that got him through that. He got through the written test, the oral test, and basically it was an apprenticeship, so all you had to do was buy books if you got in. But you had one last test to get in, and it was actual interview. So Sean is interviewing with these adults that are probably in their 20s and 30 years old. And, he hasn't even finished high school yet. So he's not even 18 yet. So he took it upon himself to drive to New Alexandria and sit in front of this panel. And from what I understand, it was about a 6 or 7 or maybe 8-person panel. And they're just drilling you with questions on what would you do in this situation? Tell me a time when this happened to you and how you got out of it. Tell me a time that you would do this instead of that. There's a whole bunch of questions, and they're trying to test your character. They're trying to test your, stress ability. They're trying to put you under pressure to see how you'd react. And, Sean must have made it out okay because he got the job. Oh, yeah. And that was just the beginning of it. So, we didn't have to move him into a dorm. We didn't have to really buy him anything. He already had a truck because he was working in high school. All he had to do was purchase a few books. And going through the apprenticeship was a 4-year apprenticeship before you became a journeyman. So, he did all the legwork, and he worked, he worked a lot of hours. And as a matter of fact, I could remember getting close to graduation day in June back in 2010, and them saying, well, Sean, I don't know if you're going to make graduation because you can't take a day off on your apprenticeship. And Sean's like, dude, I'm graduating. I got to go. So he came home and told us that, and we got a kick out of it. But the guys did let him go graduate. But, Sean was actually working a real full-time job before he even got out of high school. So all he had to do was just attend, work, and it was paid on the job, too. So he made a boatload of money. He was able to upgrade his truck, and the rest is history. And, he's well on his way to a 10-year apprenticeship. It's been long gone. 4 years. After 4 years, you become a journeyman. So he's about 6 years into it. And, he's in Local 66, which is the Heavy Machine Operators Union. And he really likes pipelining and running big machines and dozers and stuff like that. So he's on his way and he's doing well. But, that was just a different way, I guess, of saying of going to college, because he really didn't go to college, but we still had to go through the application process and the test and the written test. And I can remember when he first found out that he got in. It came in the mail. And I had just picked it up, pulled into the driveway, and pulled into the garage, as a matter of fact. And Sean was working at Gianni's at that time, and I called him up. Or I think I texted him. I'm like, Sean, your letter came in to see if you made it to the apprenticeship or not. Do you want me to open it? And without hesitation, he's like, of course, why would you wait? I'm not going to wait till I come home at 11 o'clock at night to find out. Just open it up and tell me. So I couldn't wait to get out of my car. I opened it up in the garage in my car and texted him back, you made it. And I could tell he called me. He didn't text me. He called me, and he's like, no way, Dad. You got to be kidding me. I'm like, no, you made it. You made it. You're going to start full-time on this day, and you're going to be expected to do this, and this, and this. And there's like a whole uniform and a whole, whole bunch of paperwork on your first day of full-time job that he had to fill out. So, goodbye, Giannis. Hello, heavy machine operator and slash pipeliner. It's going to be a good time. For sure. So that was just a small rendition of what Sean went through to get through his, if you want to say, quote unquote, college. But, it's a lot different process than whenever I went to school. Logan's going to Point Park University in Pittsburgh, and he just finished his second year. So he'll be going back in the fall as a junior. But I could remember the whole process of Logan starting to go to school. And it's a lot different from whenever the lovely Kim and myself went to school. When I went to KLU, there was an application you filled out, and there was no oral or written test or no panel, no interview or anything like that. You just signed up and you went to school. You just picked out the loan, the terms, and what you wanted to study, and you were on your way. And the lovely Kim, I believe, was similar to that. We all can't have a JD like the lovely Kim, but, she went through her bachelor's program at Pitt, and, she got through that with flying colors, and then she ended up going to Duquesne for her JD, and that was kind of tough. That was a 3 or 4 year struggle right there going through law school, but she made it, and she didn't stay at the dorms. She did stay at home, but, I always thought about that. Hey, you got to go back to school and stay in the dorms. That's kind of funny, but getting back to Logan, we went through the whole process of before he was a senior in the summer. We actually visited a few colleges, and the first one was Point Park University, and he already knew his field of study. I mean, heck, he's been watching movies, and he's been figuring out the Jaws 5 for the last 10 years that, hey, he might as well take a shot with cinema production. And it just so happens that Point Park is world-renowned for cinema productions, and, they specialize in a lot of different arts, but, Logan was always interested in, the TV aspect, the video aspect, editing, sound, movies, and stuff like that. Heck, he's been writing scripts for how many years, so he just enjoys the whole process of, making movies, making TV, and making things work. So, we visited there. We had a really good, tour of the campus and the dorms. We went and checked out all the dorms, the cafeteria. They even fed us good. I mean, heck, you get a good free meal at the student union. You can't beat it. I'm sold. When do we start? Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny as, they give you your best whenever you're touring schools. They don't want you to see any of the bad part, but, the food wasn't as good as the first day you go because, you get cafeteria food, but whenever you go touring colleges and you set up and you go to campuses, they give you the good food. They give you the good stuff from the student union. But, there's another school we looked at. We only looked at 2 schools for Logan, as a matter of fact. The other school was Robert Morris, or Bobby Moe, as a lot of people know that. And that was a more traditional kind of college where it had the grassy knolls. It had the long, spread out green lawns. It had fraternities. It had actual, college atmosphere, with sidewalks and long walks to the next dorm room with greenhouses, and they had parks, and they had things to do out there with big lawn, shady trees and stuff. So it was the whole college atmosphere, and we went through there, and it was really nice campus that we went through, but it really didn't fit the means of what Logan was looking for, because in the traditional college for cinema production, they're going to put you through English, they're going to put you through history, they're going to put you through a lot of classes that you already took in high school. So, we sat down, we talked about, we're like, well, why are you going to take that? And then your last year at Bobby Moe, you're going to start taking production classes? I'm like, that just didn't make sense. Why don't we just go with PPU while we hit the ground running whenever you get there and you start taking the classes that you want to get into? And, that was his thinking. It wasn't my thinking. I kind of thought that too, but, Logan thought of that all on his own, and he knew that's where he wanted to be, and we thought that would be a good place for him to grow and expand his knowledge. And man, I'll tell you, since then he's gotten to know so much about the industry of television and movies and videos. He just doesn't watch a movie the same way he used to as a kid because he's just critiquing it all the time. He's just He's just watching a movie and he's watching it very clinically. He's looking for aspects that the general people just don't know about. So I think that's kind of fun. Once he got the acceptance through the mail and things like that, things started to move pretty quick. You start to buy things, gather things for his first year, his freshman year. You never know what to expect. And then there's the whole roommate thing. You don't know what dorm you're in. You don't know what roommate you're going to get. You don't know when you're going to move in. You don't know how you're going to move in. But I am happy to say that they do have a pretty good move-in process. I mean, they have kids there helping you, and you don't have to take anything up to your dorm. They, as a matter of fact, move everything into your dorm. However, the downside of that is you have to move everything out of the dorm, and we just went through that last Thursday, and let me tell you, that's a process in itself. I mean, you have to rent the cart, you have to go up to the 18th floor, you have to fight all the people to get through, and then you have to load up the cart. And it took us a couple loads to get down to the car, and it barely fit into the car, but we made it work. And this was his second year, so we kind of knew what to expect. So the next 2 years ought to be easier and easier. But going through some of the processes of him applying to school, was a student loan, was the tour, was the orientation. We went through the orientation, and he had a couple orientations where he had to stay over, and those dorms do get hot because you had a choice of two dorms. One of the dorms where you get your own bathroom but no air condition, and the other dorm was you don't get your own bathroom but you get air conditioned. So, pick your poison, as they say, and I think Logan chose the right one. He picked the one with his own bathroom in the room. I think that kind of worked because who wants to share a commune bathroom on the same floor? I mean, come on, let's be realistic and let's get a bathroom in your room. For sure. So that was the whole process, and then going to the store and buying everything, and waiting for that day to move in, and a lot of excitement and a lot of anxiety as well goes with that. I mean, come on, the parents are excited, but the parents are also the first time around, parents going to a traditional college, I really don't know what to expect because things have changed since the 80s whenever we went to college. So we didn't really know what to expect, so we're trying to give Logan all kind of tips on what to do and how to survive dorm life, with just getting a lot of fans and blowing the hot air out of the room and, remembering your key and lock the door and, be roommate friendly and trying to work it out with them and just sitting down and eating with a bunch of strangers basically in the cafeteria and getting to your classes. Logan got a really good support system with us, and I think that one of the best things we did was we went through his first day of classes. As we moved him in, we walked him and his roommate around to their first day of classes, so they know where to go, where to report on day one. They're not going to be looking for their classes. So for anyone listening, that's a big tip. It's huge, is when you're moving in your kid is to just take their schedule and just go walk to the buildings and just kind of simulate the classes that they're going to be taking, just so they know, they're familiar with how long it takes to get there, where it is, and how to get in, because you need your badge to get in everywhere. So I think that was good. And once we left in down there, it took a while to get, I'll say, to get acquainted with the place you're staying in. But he did a really good job. He stayed there, for the first couple weeks. And it was a long, 10 or 11 days. However, he had to stay with orientation and, the new freshman moving in. But he's glad that he's not a freshman anymore. I can tell you that. Yeah, that's pretty funny, but I know he's glad to move in his junior and senior year, and as a matter of fact, he got a single room this year. The past couple years, he's had roommates all through the semesters, but the first semester, Tanner moved out probably the first month, so he had a double room by himself, and then he had to get a roommate the second semester, of his first year, and he made it through that, and then he got a new roommate his first semester of his second year, but unfortunately, he couldn't afford to come back his second semester of the second year, So Jaquil actually couldn't come back, and I couldn't pay for his room and board, and Logan got another room by himself. Same room, actually, but it's a double room by himself. So next year when we move in this fall, he's going to have a single room, which will probably be a little bit smaller, but at least he doesn't have to worry about who's going to be rooming with him and if he's compatible or, just to see if it all works out or not. When we moved Logan out, he, of course, had a lot of stuff out of his dorm. So, we had to take his refrigerator, all of his clothes and his baskets and some small furniture and fans and lights and stuff. But then you got to store it here at the house. So we actually have to go through it and put it away for the fall because, I always think that you come out of the dorms and you really don't have anything, but you do. You do have a lot of stuff that you have to bring home and keep clean because you're going to use it again the following year and probably the following year after that. There's some things you got to throw out when moving out of the dorms, but, not everything you don't want to throw out because you could reuse it the next year. But I can remember one of my favorite parts of moving him in his freshman year was he got these risers for his bed. I thought it was kind of funny because if you picture a dorm room, it's kind of like a bed off to the side, and it has springs on it with one mattress, and they're really low to the ground. So for you to put the risers under each leg underneath the bed, you had to almost like crawl under barbed wire to put these risers under the bed. And I can remember putting those under the bed and me getting PTSD and flashbacks of Tough Mudder and just getting zapped and going bzz, bzz, as I'm trying to put his risers under his bed. The low bed is just raking my back because of the springs, and it just gave me some memories of Tough Mudder. That's funny. So now I just do it. Without even thinking about it. But so holding up is putting everything back up in his room is is worse than probably moving him back out because of moving him back out. You just throw it in the bin and bring it back home. But when you go there, you want to set everything up. You have to put the shower curtain up. You have to set everything up. Move the bed, change the sheets, get the fans on, open the window, and clean out the drawers and stuff like that, and put your clothes away neatly. So it's definitely harder to move in than it is to move out, for sure. Right along with Logan going to school and taking classes, he's been in an internship the past year, and there's a lot of work that goes into that. The internship, requires a lot of time other than your studies. So it's an unpaid internship through the college. And, the professor that he has that does this is, gives him projects to do. So she'll give him a film that he has to edit, or she'll give him a film that he has to create sound with. And I guess I really didn't realize all the sound bites that go into a movie. So let's just say, for instance, if you're pulling a knife out and you're chasing someone to kill, you actually don't hear it. You actually have to make a sound for it, almost like rubbing two knives together to hear that sound. If you just pull out a knife and you swing it in the air, you don't hear anything. So you have to create sound for that. So we had to do a lot of sounds at home for that. So he would bring home his sound equipment, and we would have to slam doors. We would have to do a lot of background noises for him to record to add into the movies. And some of them were fun, but some of them were hard to replicate. I can remember him asking me to put a suit on just so I can get a sound of walking in my suit, or a hand like crossing the back of the suit that the sound makes on the fabric that you have to put into the movie. Little things like that you don't even think about when you're watching a movie, but a lot of work goes into it because you have to add the sound, like even the steps of somebody moving, or of a sound of like a door closing or a window open and shutting, or putting a glass down, or taking off your glasses and setting it on a counter or something like that. You don't think about all that going into it. So his internship, he has it with a few other classmates, but he has to edit it, create sound. He has to go to class for that. They meet weekly for that. So it's a lot of work, and that's just aside from his classes that he takes at Point Park. So he's getting a lot of experience, and I think he's making a lot of good contacts for the future. I mean, these people come all over the country to teach at this school, and heck, all of the students come all over the country to attend this school. So you got to think that if you're coming from California and you're attending Point Park University, you think, well, why don't they just go to one of the Hollywood production schools? But I guess they just don't. They just don't have the schools like they do here out east. So you get your experience out east, and then you head west, is my understanding. At least that's my hope, is we all head west. But it's it's going to be a fun ride the next 2 years, moving him in and out and seeing where he goes from there. But one of my favorite movies, and I always use this quote all the time, and I like to use it. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're my kids, but one of the quotes from Back to School is, I love my kids. I put one through college, and I put one through a wall. That was a limo driver, Lou. Oh, for Thornton Mellon, and going back to school. So that's pretty funny. But that about takes care of that, because that pretty much sums it up. These kids today, some of them move in on their own, and some need help moving in. So take your pick. Well, that about wraps it up for Right on the Mark with your host, Mark Young. Don't forget to leave your comments below. I'd love to hear how you handle dorm move-in and move-out day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and smash the bell. See you next time, folks.